remember they're changing my voice. So I left off saying, you who have escaped the sword, leave and do not linger. Remember the Lord in a distant land and call to mind Jerusalem. So it's saying, leave Babylon, like Revelation 18. All right, Babylon falls, becomes a place for demons, every unclean and detestable bird, unclean spirit. That's what Revelation says. So it says, leave, right? The path of the prudent leads straight up to heaven to keep him from going down to the realm of the dead. Proverbs. Also, Isaiah 57. The righteous are taken away to be spared from evil, and they're taken to the source of righteousness, not anywhere in this evil world. Heaven and haven. A haven with God, not in this world. We are disgraced, for we have been insulted, and shame covers our faces, because foreigners have entered the holy place of the Lord's house. This is part of why the earth is defiled, right? Isaiah 24, Isaiah 34 is defiled. It's going to be totally destroyed. Okay? The days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will punish her idols. Throughout her land, the wounded will groan. Even if Babylon ascends to the heavens and fortifies her lofty stronghold, I will send destroyers against her, declares the Lord. So Babylon is not going to be allowed to escape. The inhabitants of the earth, there's nothing they can do. Okay? They are their own worst enemies. There's no escaping themselves. Like Bob Marley would say, you can't run away from yourself. The sound of a cry comes from Babylon, the sound of great destruction from the land of the Babylonians. The Lord will destroy Babylon. He will silence her noisy din. Waves of enemies will rage like great waters. The roar of their voices will resound. So notice it says waves of great enemies. Waves, specifically, waves of enemies will rage like great waters, rather, instead of great enemies. Waves of enemies will rage like great waters. The roar of their voices will resound. So when it says in Isaiah 42:13, the Lord will march out, right, like a champion, like a warrior, he will, gather his zeal, okay, and he will shout out. He will raise the battle cry. First and foremost, it's by actions, by the Spirit. See, a lot of people, they don't understand things. For example, I could be right here striking at world record speed. My neighbors could miss it. My parents just hear the noise and complain about the noise. Important spiritual events could be taking place, and you're not aware because you're not in the divine order, because you didn't bother to learn what important spiritual events are. Okay? People die anyway. So when people say, well, why doesn't God kill everybody? Okay? Well, he does. People die anyway. If they find a way to live a long, long, long time, they can't guarantee forever. And it's a pitiful life. Why prolong your pitiful life? Something like 30,000 people kill themselves every year in America. Okay? They get it. Why prolong a pitiful life? And I'm not saying they should or shouldn't for the purpose of this video. 56. A destroyer will come against Babylon. Her warriors will be captured, and their bows will be broken. For the Lord is a God of retribution who will pay in full. So why bother to say their bows will be broken? Their warriors are literally captured. What does it matter if their bows are stored in, a safe place, or if they're broken? What does it matter? It's referring to their warrior spirit. What are they doing? Nothing. With their martial arts, nothing. With their military and police, nothing. The theater of war, it's a mere theater game for hypocrites, pretenders, play actors. Okay? There will be nobody on the planet that will ever do even a single movement, even a single brain communication to the body of martial arts after my flesh is dead, or any other valid masculine process or activity. For the Lord is a God of retribution. He will repay in full. What do you think is the cost for people and their offspring when they denied me a suitable helper and cheated me on my right to lead after, basically billions of years it took, who knows, countless billions of years for the earth to form. Just because they say the earth is like 4 billion years old or whatever it is, doesn't mean that this isn't something that was being created for billions of years before that. No one knows how old the universe is. And over time, people are said to evolve from a single-celled organism. Okay, so they cheated me out of my place in this world and my offspring. You know, the possibility of me having offspring who I raise myself, who are valid successors to the throne. So the Lord repays in full, like it says in Jeremiah 51:56, what shall be done with these people and their offspring who are continuing the spirits and the flesh and the activities in one form or fashion, variations, spectrums, what have you, of their forefathers and mothers and ancestors. Like Christ said in the New Testament, you know, the character of the story, he said, finish what you started. So what did they start? They started dooming themselves and their offspring to hell and making sure they were going to suffer forever. Why did he say that? Because he said they kept killing the people that were sent to him. I will make her officials and wise men drunk, her governors, officers, and warriors as well. They will sleep forever and not awake, declares the King, whose name is the Lord Almighty. This is what the Lord Almighty says. Babylon's thick wall will be leveled and her high gates set on fire. The peoples exhaust themselves for nothing. The nation's labor is only fuel for the flames. This is the message Jeremiah the prophet gave to the staff officer Uriah. The word Uriah is very similar to Aries. Aha! Eri, the Igbo Eri, Haro Aries, the son of God. And Aha, from the word Hor Aha, which is said to mean Horus, the top martial artist. Horus, the warrior. Some translate it as Horus, the fighter, but obviously they're referring to martial arts. Show me a depiction of Horus, you know, with doing something other than something that's a mind, body, soul, and spirit activity. Is it profane, Conan the Barbarian, okay, or is it he's holding a club with all kinds of religious symbolism in the Narmer palette? So Narmer, Horus, right? Horus, the son of God, okay? What the Egyptians were trying to say, and like Christ says in the book, before Abraham I am. So African martial arts, you know, Africans very warrior people, very martial art people. Exodus 15:3, the Lord is the warrior, the Lord is his name. African martial arts, according to the Bible, created Cush. Ham begot Cush. Then this particular type of African martial arts, because remember, Ham is the father of Mizraim, Egypt, Canaan, Cush, which is Sudan and southern Egypt, and really all sub-Saharan Africa, really by default, because it was a trade center that represented for all sub-Saharan Africa. So if you're going to talk about America, for example, racially, okay, and you're going to talk about specifically the Europeans in America, you'd be talking about basically the whole white diaspora, right? Basically. And with that same scale, you know, some of them are from Europe, okay? And especially if the most impressive of them were Europeans and not European Americans. And so it is with Kush. The most impressive of them were sub-Saharan Africans. And they, you know, Kush is said to be a mighty warrior, so they're citing those particular characteristics of that particular region and that particular spirit and land. So African martial arts begot Kush, Ham begot Kush. The particular type of Kushite African martial arts begot Nimrod. And Nimrod was the first mighty hunter before the Lord. When Babylon was great and when his African martial arts spirit left, it says Babylon the Great has fallen. And so there's a series of punishments that's being leveled against Babylon. When Babylon is a trade center for the entire world. So some people there were whitish. Some people there were Semitic. Some people there were black. Some people there were Asian, Near Asian, Far Asian. Okay? And by extension, there's very similar between the early Native Americans are very similar to some of these people. They're the extension of these people, right? You know, when we go into Eastern Europe, okay, in Russia, you see people very similar to Native Americans and Eskimos and so on and so forth. These various types of Native Americans, right? And Islanders and so on and so forth. Okay? And so it is they represent for their spirits, their flesh, for what they would do. And you see in America, we see people, you see Native Americans here. See, God said, you know, he made sure to cover everyone on the planet. So here in America, all the way in America here, the Native Americans have a chance to rally to me. They did not do that. Okay? Just like the people who were representing for them and their people in Babylon did not stand with Nimrod. So when Nimrod, eventually the people like that got outnumbered because it's a trade route for the world and they're all plotting around the clock. Imagine being a small group of people, 1% or so, that, you know, or even 50%. And that people from all over the world start plotting against you because they want to control the pussy and they're not interested in morality. And so is what happened to Nimrod. You know, there's no other way to look at his fate. Okay? So you see that every country in the world, God Almighty, as in infinite wisdom, made sure every people on the planet had fair representation, every people that's still around. through Babylon and their ancestors' actions there and their spirits, they're continuing wherever they are, and through America, etc. Egypt and what have you. Okay. Babylon's thick wall will be leveled and her high gates set on fire. The peoples exhaust themselves for nothing. The nation's labor is only fuel for the flames. This is the message Jeremiah the prophet gave to the staff officer Ariah, son of Neriah, the son of Messiah. He went on to Babylon with Zedekiah, king of Judah, in the 4th year of his reign. Jeremiah had written on a scroll about all the disaster that would come upon Babylon. Okay, are they saying come upon the Babylon as that, as a nation at the time? No, they're referring to Babylon forever. Okay, you read this, read Revelation, right? Revelation takes place well after the Jews are no longer captive in Babylon. In fact, they're somewhat captive in Rome. And Rome is continuing the Babylon tradition, so it's the extension of Babylon. These disasters come upon the extension of Babylon, which eventually covers the whole world. It says the whole earth, okay, as it says in Isaiah 34. Jeremiah had written on a scroll about all the disasters that would come upon Babylon, all that had been recorded concerning Babylon. He said to Sariah, when you get to Babylon, see that you read all these words aloud. Then say, Lord, you have said that you will destroy this place so that neither people nor animals will live in it. It will be desolate forever. When you finish reading the scroll, tie a stone to it and throw it in the Euphrates. Then say, so will Babylon sink to rise no more because of the disaster I'll bring on her, and her people will fall. The words of Jeremiah end here. So what does it say? He said, and her people will fall. How? There were still the descendants of the Babylonians well after Jeremiah had passed, well after, the Jews were released. He's saying they're going to spiritually fall because the essence of warfare is the purpose of life, the spirit of life. The essence of warfare is what happens to your spirit and your soul. Okay? Did people make themselves, or did they evolve, to the best of anyone's understanding, from single-celled organisms? Right? Genesis, like I've proven a million times over, is full of metaphors and figurative speech. It's not talking literally. God didn't literally create the world in the time period that's stated. When it says the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night, okay, it's talking about spiritually first and foremost. Okay, that's why it's not just saying the sun and the moon. It's saying that is the purpose and the symbol that's in the sky. It's spiritually representing for that. Okay. And so it is, when we see when, say when the sun makes someone tan, you say a white person goes to Hawaii, gets a tan, right? What has happened there? Is it limited only to the color of their skin changes? No, there's other things that are unseen that occur. That's why amen, and Christians say amen after prayer, means the hidden one. So what is not being seen is critical in warfare. Critical. In fact, most of the people in a nation, typically, they don't see the battles take place. So when the army comes back and they say they won, they didn't see it. But it still affects them. So this is a recurring theme again and again. So the hidden spirit is of the utmost importance.